unilateralism, bloc politics, and confrontation. It calls for all countries to practice true multilateralism and firmly uphold the authority of the UN and its status as the main platform for global security governance. Fourth, commitment to taking the legitimate security concerns of all countries seriously. The GSI upholds the principle of indivisible security for all, advocates a balanced, effective, and sustainable security architecture, and opposes the pursuit of one's own security at the cost of others' security. Fifth, commitment to peacefully resolving differences and disputes between countries through dialogue and consultation. The GSI supports all efforts conducive to the peaceful settlement of crisis, rejects double standards, and opposes the abuse of unilateral sanctions and long-arm jurisdiction. 6. Commitment to maintaining security in both traditional and non-traditional domains. The GSI advocates the principle of planning together, building together, and benefiting together in global governance, and make concerted efforts to address regional disputes and global challenges such as terrorism, climate change, cybersecurity, and biosecurity. Last February, China released the Global Security Initiative concept paper, proposing 20 priorities of cooperation under the GSI framework, as well as suggestions for the platforms and mechanisms of cooperation. Now, we have some copies of the concept paper available here for your reference. The 20 cooperation priorities identified by the concept paper involve traditional military security areas such as promoting political settlement of international and regional hostile issues, peacekeeping operations under the UN framework, safeguarding the nuclear non-proliferation regime, and conventional arms control. They also cover non-traditional security areas of climate change, information, biosecurity, outer space, artificial intelligence, and public health. In response to the most prominent and pressing security concerns of the international security community, the concept paper proposes specific action plans, which reflect China's sense of responsibility for and courage in upholding world peace and global security. These 6 commitments and the 20 cooperation priorities review 3 defining features of the GSI. First, the GSI emphasizes common security. Based on the fact that countries have intertwined interests and a stake in each other's security, the GSI underscores the indivisible security for all, that is, the indivisibility between individual security and common security, between traditional and non-traditional security, between security rights and security obligations, and between security and development. By rejecting the outdated idea of exclusive security and absolute security, the GSI stresses that no country could have its own security ensured without the security of the wider world, and that absolute security based on the insecurity of other countries does not exist. The GSI advocates that members of the international community view global security issues from a more comprehensive and holistic perspective, safeguard international common security with a stronger sense of responsibility and mission, and demonstrate their commitment to a just cause for the common good of the world. Second, the GSI emphasizes openness and inclusiveness. It belongs as much to the world as to China. All countries are welcome to join in the GSI if they so wish, and all efforts for global peace and tranquility will be supported. The GSI is open to countries around the world and maintains that issues which matter to all should be jointly addressed by all. In international security affairs, efforts should be made to seek the biggest common denominator and the widest converging interests, rather than create exclusive small circles or reshape the existing international security order. Third, the GSI emphasizes practical cooperation. In implementing the GSI, China focuses on action, not rhetoric. It honors the commitment and takes practical actions. The GSI has top-level plan and specific methods and pathways. The release of the Global Security Initiative concept paper marks an important step for turning the GSI from vision into practice. It proves once again that China always delivers on its promises with real actions. China is ready to work with all parties in good faith to address the various security risks and challenges facing humanity. Ladies and gentlemen, friends, over the past year and more, China, through extensive consultation and joint efforts with all parties, had made heartening progress under the framework of the GSI. China has actively participated in and promoted multilateral security cooperation. China has dispatched most peacekeepers among the permanent members of the UN Security Council. It is the second largest contributor to the UN peacekeeping budget. And as we speak, more than 2,200 Chinese peacekeepers are on active duty in 8 mission areas. From removing landmines and explosive hazards and monitoring ceasefire to conducting security escort and emergency rescue, the Chinese blue helmets are a crucial force for UN peacekeeping endeavors. China firmly supports the global process of conventional arms control and has completed its ratification of the UN Firearms Protocol. China supports the implementation of the Silencing the Guns in Africa initiative. We are actively engaged in international humanitarian demining cooperation and have carried out joint demining operations for ASEAN countries, contributing our share to helping countries in the region eliminate this hazard and enhance the security and well-being of the people. China has actively carried out mediation diplomacy and made unremitting efforts to promote political settlement of hotspot issues. We have issued China's position on the political settlement of the Ukraine crisis and China's position on the Afghan issue, standing firmly on the side of peace. China successfully mediated the reconciliation between Saudi Arabia and Iran, which has set a fine example for regional countries to resolve differences and disagreements through dialogue and consultation, and achieve good neighborly relations and friendship. On the Iranian nuclear issue, China plays a constructive role in promoting negotiations to resume compliance with the JCPOA. China stays committed to making synchronized progress in the establishment of a permanent peace mechanism and the denuclearization of the Korean Peninsula. Since the latest outbreak of the conflict between Palestine and Israel, China has actively communicated and coordinated with relevant parties, sent its special envoy to visit regional countries, and provided humanitarian assistance to Palestine immediately. We're working for de-escalation of the situation and to prevent the expansion of the fighting and a humanitarian disaster, to create conditions for political settlement. China has engaged actively in cooperation with various parties in non-traditional security areas like counterterrorism, cybersecurity, food security, and climate change. China has successfully held the first meeting of the China-Pakistan-Iran trilateral consultation on counterterrorism and security. We have proposed the International Cooperation Initiative on Global Food Security under the framework of G20, launched the Center for Disaster Prevention and Mitigation Cooperation between China and Pacific Island states, and promoted the establishment of a global law enforcement and security training system. Faced with emerging security challenges in cybersecurity and AI governance, China has stayed in the forefront by launching the Global Initiative on Data Security and the Global Initiative for AI Governance, leading the international security governance process in emerging areas. China has actively facilitated the improvement of international security dialogue and exchange platforms and mechanisms. We work together with African countries to hold the China Horn of Africa First Peace, Governance and Development Conference, which built important consensus on promoting regional peace, development and governance, adding positive energy to the security and stability of Africa. We successfully held the second Middle East Security Forum and proposed 4 points on how the international community jointly works for a new security architecture in the Middle East. We have also actively facilitated exchanges and cooperation on security among various partners under multilateral frameworks such as the Shanghai Cooperation Organization (ICO), the Conference on Interaction on Confidence-Building Measures in Asia, and its Asian cooperation mechanisms. We've continued to develop platforms for international security dialogue such as the Beijing香山Forum, Conference of Global Public Security Cooperation Forum in Lianyungang, China-Africa Peace and Security Forum, and the China-Latin America Defense Forum to build consensus and synergy of the international community to meet security challenges. Ladies and gentlemen, friends, going forward, to achieve solid, steady, and sustained progress for GSI, China will work in the following 4 key areas. First, expand the international consensus on safeguarding common security. We will continue to work with all parties for dialogue and exchanges on global security issues in various forms, to act on the vision of comprehensive, cooperative, and sustainable security, and to oppose the forming of exclusive blocs among ideological lines and the acts of inciting division and confrontation. China will hold high-level conferences on the GSI in due course for deeper exchange of ideas and policy communication, and build more international consensus on jointly tackling challenges and safeguarding common security. Second, developing an effective model of international security cooperation. We will continue to follow the concept paper as a roadmap and work actively with all parties to explore and advance international security cooperation and address various traditional and non-traditional security challenges. We encourage GSI participants to carry out bilateral and multilateral cooperation in specific areas under one or multiple cooperation priorities based on their own needs and the collective needs of the international community. It's important to make good use of international and regional multilateral mechanisms such as the UN, the BRICS, and the ICO, and make the pie of mutually beneficial cooperation bigger. We also set great store by and welcome the participation of experts, think tanks, and non-governmental organizations from all countries in the cooperation as a source of vision and insight from different perspectives for greater GSI cooperation. Third, exploring peaceful solutions to hotspot issues. We will continue to keep to the general direction of promoting talks for peace and encourage countries concerned to enhance mutual security confidence, manage differences, and diffuse tensions through candid dialogue on communication. On the Palestinian-Israeli conflict, China will continue to work actively for the parties concerned to stop fighting as soon as possible and prevent a humanitarian disaster. We will work for a return of the question of Palestine to the right track of the two-state solution, so that it will be settled in a comprehensive, just, and lasting manner. On the Ukraine crisis, China will stay committed to the right direction of promoting peace talks and call on relevant parties to work for cessation of hostilities and de-escalation, create conditions for restarting talks, and work persistently for peace. Fourth, facilitating the reform of the global security governance system. China will continue to firmly support the central role of the UN in global security governance and support international and regional organizations such as the ICO and ASEAN in fully playing their roles. Work to improve security governance in such areas as cyberspace, data, biosecurity, counterterrorism, public health, and artificial intelligence, and help develop a security governance architecture featuring coordination among governments and international organizations and participation of non-governmental organizations. It is believed that the GSI will serve as a platform that brings about the most extensive security exchange and cooperation among members of the international community and galvanizes synergies for advancing the reform of the global security governance system. Ladies and
习近平
gentlemen,
主席强调，
Excellencies,
中国的
friends,
发展是世界和平力量的增
President
长
Xi Jinping emphasized that
中国
China's
在
development
坚定
strengthens
维
the
护世
world's
界和
force
平
for peace,
发展中谋
and
求
that China
自身
will
发展，
strive to safeguard
又与
world
自
peace
身发
and
展
development as it
更好
pursues its
地
own
维
development,
护世界和平。
and will make greater contribution to world peace and development
习近平
through
主
its
席还
own
强调，
development.
要加快推进中国
President
是现
Xi
代化。
also stressed the imperative to make faster
中国是
progress
现代
in
化
China's
不走
modernization
殖
drive.
民掠夺的老路，
This path
不
is
走
neither the old
夺
path
强
of
必霸的歪路，
colonization and plunder,
走的是
nor the
和平
crooked
发展
path
的
taken by some
人间
countries
正道。
to seek hegemony
我们
once
欢
they
迎
grow strong,
所有爱好和
but the
平、
right course
致
of
力于
peaceful
发展
development.
的国际社
We
会成
welcome
员
all
积极
peace-loving
参
and
与
development-focused
全球
members
安
of
全
the
倡议
international
合作，
community to
为促
actively
进人
participate
类
in
共同
GSI
安全、
cooperation
世界
and make
持久和
contributions
平
to
做
promoting
出新的
humanity's
贡
common
献。
security and
让
enduring
我
world
们
peace.
团结一
Let us
致，
join hands
携手并肩，
and work
为实
tirelessly
现世
for
界永续和平
the
发展
everlasting
无
peace
限
and
奋斗。
development of the world.
我今天就讲这些，谢谢
That's
大
the end
家。
of my today's speech. Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, dear friends, I'd like to thank Assistant Foreign Minister Nongro for your keynote speech, and your thematic speech gave us a better understanding of the GSI. And we now know better about the key elements and aspirations and the progress of the GSI. And you also shared with us what China will do in the next step. So that I think everyone in the audience now has a more comprehensive understanding, have the whole picture of the GSI. I'd like to thank Assistant Foreign Minister Nongro once again for your thematic speech. Thank you. So we are going to have the third plenary session. Please wait for a moment. Please don't leave your seats. Thank you.
有请主持人和第3次全体会议嘉宾上台落座。
I would like to invite the host and the guests of the third plenary session to take their seat.
女士们、先生们、朋友们，
Ladies and gentlemen, dear friends, good morning.
现在开始
Now we are going to
香山论
have
坛
the
第3次全体
third
会议
plenary session of the 10th
会议的
Beijing
议题
Xiangshan
是
Forum with
亚
the
太
theme
安全
Asia
架构
Pacific Security
现
Architecture,
状与未来。
Present and Future.
首先
First
邀
of
请
all, I'd
老
like
挝
to
副总理
invite
兼国防部长詹沙蒙上
General
将
Chansar Mochana Lath, Vice Prime Minister and Minister of Defense of Laos. Let's welcome.
ขอเรียนท่านประธานที่เคารพบรรดาท่าน
Distinguished guests,
บรรดาท่านแขก
Ladies and gentlemen,
ก่อนอื่น
Good morning.
ข้าพเจ้า
At the
ทาง
outset,
คณะผู้แทนกระทรวงการประเทศ
I would like to express
ประชาธิปไตยประชาชนลาว
my sincere appreciation to the Ministry of National Defense of the People's Republic of China for the invitation extended to me and my delegation to participate in the 10th Beijing Xiangshan Forum and for the warm hospitality given to me
และจะได้
and
ให้
my
การต้อนรับ
delegation.
อย่างอบอุ่นที่สุดแก่พวกคณะพวกข้าพเจ้าขอแสดงความสมเสย
I would-
คณะจัดตั้ง
I also would like to
วิทยาศาสตร์การ
commend
ทหารและ
the
สถาบัน
organizers
วิทยาศาสตร์สากลแห่ง
China Association of Military Sciences as well as China Institute for International Strategic Studies for the excellent arrangement for the Beijing Xiangshan Forum.
บรรดาท่านที่มีเกียรติท่านยิ่งท่านชายในช่วงปีผ่านมา
Distinguished guests, ladies and
ข่าวขึ้น
gentlemen,
อาเซียนแปซิฟิกโดยรวมแล้ว
Asia Pacific over the past
มี
years
สันติภาพเสถียรภาพ
has
การร่วม
remained
มือ
a region of
เพื่อการ
peace,
พัฒนา
stability,
และการขยายตัว
cooperation
ทางด้านเศรษฐกิจ
for development as well as economic growth, which have been an important factor in bringing about benefits to countries across the region and the world.
แต่เคียงคู่กับสภาพเงื่อนไขดังกล่าว
Together with such positive development, the region, however, is not spared challenges both internally and externally. In particular,
กลุ่มการทหาร
the
พันธมิตร
creation of military blocs affecting security of the region and beyond.
ก็คือในโลกอีกด้วยนอกจากนี้ภาคพื้นอาเซียนแปซิฟิก
In addition, Asia Pacific region is also being confronted with other non-traditional security challenges like terrorism,
ปัญหาภัยเงินเฟ้อการเปลี่ยนแปลงทางดินฟ้าอากาศ
cybersecurity,
ในช่วงปีผ่านมา
inflation,
เห็นว่าภัยพิบัติธรรม
climate
ชาติ
change, among others.
ที่มีผลกระทบจากการเปลี่ยนแปลงทางดินฟ้าอากาศเช่น
In recent
พายุ
years,
ไต้ฝุ่น
we have
น้ำป่าไหล
witnessed
สู่ถัง
that climate change-related disasters, for example, typhoons, flash floods,
หรือมีลักษ
and
ณะ
the
รุนแรง
extreme weather tend to occur with
ซึ่งมันได้สร้างความ
frequency
เสียหาย
and
หนักหน่วงต่อชี
intensity
วิตทรัพย์
which
สิน
have caused
และการพัฒนาเศรษฐกิจ
substantial
ของประเท
damage
ศที่กรุงเทพ
to people's
แน่
lives,
นอนว่าสิ่งท้าทายเห
infrastructure,
ล่านี้
and the national economic development of many
ที่จะสามารถ
countries.
แก้ไขด้วยตนเองได้
These
ดัง
challenges
นั้นมัน
obviously
เหี่ยงห้อง
cannot
ให้มี
be
การร่วมมือ
handled
แบบหลาย
by
ฝ่าย
a single
หลายประเทศ
country.
เพื่อช่วยกัน
Multilateralism,
ป้อง
therefore,
กันรับ
is
มือ
necessary to allow us
ป้องกันรับมือ
to
และร่วมกัน
mitigate
แก้ไข
and work together to
ปัญหาเศรษฐกิจ
respond
ต่าง
and
ๆอย่างมีประสิ
collectively
ทธิภาพ
address such
โดยการ
security challenges
สร้างขี
in
ด
an
ความสามาร
effective
ถ
manner
และการ
through capacity building
ร่วมกัน
and interoperability.
เป็นคณะบรรดาท่านผู้แทน
Colleagues,
จีนเป็นประเทศที่มีความ
China
เข้มแข็ง
is a country
ทางด้าน
that has economic and military strength and the
มีความ
potentials
สามารถ
in building
และความพร้อม
capacity
ในหลายด้านในการสู้
and
และส่งเสริม
promoting
การร่วมมือ
cooperation
เพื่อพัฒนา
for development with countries across the region and the world. Taking this opportunity, I would like to extend my heartfelt gratitude and appreciation to China for the valuable assistance extended to Lao People's Army. Such assistance has been critically laid a foundation for the development of our defense. Colleagues, ladies and gentlemen, peace, friendship, national identity, and cooperation for social-economic development are always the overall trend. Peace and security are the ultimate goal that every country has been striving for. We live in the world that is interdependent, regardless of big or small countries, in order for us to together develop and promote good livelihoods and peace for humanity and every country. Lao PDR supports China's ways of addressing crises, both regionally and globally. At the same time, Lao PDR also supports One China policy, One China principle, and that Taiwan is an inalienable part of China. We oppose actions that aim to separate Taiwan from China. Lao PDR also supports and congratulates the success of the Third Belt and Road Forum for International Cooperation previously convened in Beijing. Distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, Asia-Pacific region will continue to play a vital role in global economic development and security due to its potentials and geographical and strategic location. At the same time, Asia-Pacific region will also continue to face challenges and tests in different shapes and forms that require every country to work closely with one another and to discuss and explore solutions together. Therefore, Lao PDR consistently supports consultative mechanisms on the basis of win-win cooperation, trust building, and peaceful solutions through constructive dialogues. This is the foreign policy of Lao PDR that always supports regional and global cooperation for benefits of all. เวลาใดก็สนับสนุนกลไกการร่วมมือระดับภาคพื้นและสากลเพื่อผลประโยชน์ร่วมกันป้องกันนั้นสปปลาว At the same time, Lao PDR hopes that China will continue to play a key role in driving and promoting cooperation with and among the countries across the region and beyond to collectively respond to and address security challenges in order to bring about peace, security, and prosperity for regional and the global community. Last but not least, may I wish the 10th Beijing Xiaoshan Forum conclude with a great success. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Prime Minister, Vice Prime Minister. Now I give the floor to His Excellency Ng Heng, Minister of Defense of Singapore. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen.
非常荣幸能受
It is my
中方之邀参
great
加
honor to be
第
invited
10
by
届
China
北
to
京
attend the
香
10th
山论坛。
Beijing Xiangshan Forum.
再次我想
Here
感
I
谢
would
中
like
方的
to
热情款待，
thank
也祝贺中
our
方
hosts'
成功举
hospitality
办
and
第10
I would
届
like to
北
congratulate
京
the
香山论
organizers
坛
on。 successfully convening the
接下来
10th
我
Beijing
用
Xiangshan
英语
Forum. Next, please allow me to continue my speech in
继
English.
续演讲。Distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, on behalf of the Singapore Ministry of Defense and the Singapore Armed Forces, let me congratulate the China Association for Military Sciences and the China Institute for International Strategic Studies for hosting this 10th Beijing Xiangshan Forum. It's an important event, especially in troubled times that we now have, and I wish continued success for this important global forum for this and the years ahead. The last time we met at the Xiangshan Forum was in 2019, barely 4 years, and yet the world has changed on us. 3 epochal events, each with a global impact, have taken place. All countries fought and struggled against COVID-19 from December 2019, and many countries are still recovering. Europe is at war, fought on the battlegrounds of Ukraine, precipitated by Russia's invasion in February 2021. For this generation at least, hopes for integration of Russia with the European Union have all but evaporated. Seeds of growing tension and conflict, as happened in the turn of the 20th century and early 1900s, have again been sown for the future. The Middle East is once again in turmoil in the aftermath of the Hamas terror attacks on Israel. It has been a difficult time, especially for innocent civilians. If there's any lesson that we can all learn from these unanticipated events, it is that peace is precarious and never a given for any country, a region, and indeed our world. As defenders of our nation, as commanders of militaries, as senior officials and ministers of defense, it will be us who prosecute war if needed and called upon. Because we have this responsibility, we must also know the cost of war and the heavy price it will extract on parties involved. And we must affirm that no efforts are wasted or spared to keep the peace, because it is peace that allows our countries and citizens to progress. Without security, there can be no progress, no economic future, quote unquote. This was the key message that Singapore's founding Prime Minister, Mr. Lee Kuan Yew, conveyed to senior military commanders of the SAF in 2012. He was close to 90 years old then, but felt as passionately about this belief as ever. Establishing peace, or establishing stability for peace, does not mean an absence of disagreements with neighbors or other powers. That has never happened in human history. We should advance our understanding, if not trust, with one another despite our differences, to find common ground for mutual cooperation and benefit. This has been the driving inspiration and motivation for the ADMM+, the 10 nations of ASEAN and 8 class partners of Australia, China, India, Japan, New Zealand, Korea, Republic of Korea, Russia, and the US. In this regard, the ADMM Plus aims to have strategic dialogue on regional security issues as well as practical cooperation among all its militaries. I remind us that the ADMM Plus represents more than 4 billion people and account for a significant proportion of the world's military forces. Singapore values China's consistent and constructive partnership in the ADMM Plus, especially through the expert working groups and other multilateral exercises, such as the ASEAN-China Maritime Exercise, which Singapore had the privilege of facilitating in 2018. These regular military-to-military touchpoints are invaluable in fostering mutual trust and understanding. But to be effective, the ADMM Plus must also deal squarely with regional security challenges, and this includes maritime security in the South China Sea, to nuclear and security threats on the Korean Peninsula, as well as transnational security threats. such as terrorism, cybercrimes, hostile information campaigns, climate change, and humanitarian disasters. Our defense establishments and militaries must engage. It's vital that we do so to reduce the risk of miscalculations and mishaps. For this coming decade, the most important task for all security chiefs is to avoid a physical conflict in Asia. What has happened in Europe and the Middle East must never occur here. Simultaneous conflicts in Asia, Europe, and the Middle East will be catastrophic for our world. A physical conflict in Asia, whatever the rationale, whatever the precipitating cause, will be devastating. We must do all we can to avoid it. Processes to settle disputes, avoid and de-escalate clashes are necessary tools to avoid conflict. To this end, ADMM has adopted the Code for Unplanned Encounters at Sea, CUES, and the Guidelines for Air Military Encounters, GAME. As a region, we have practiced these guidelines, such as during the ASEAN-China Maritime Exercise in 2018, where CUES was employed. But for further avoidance of risks, CUES will need to be applied to paramilitary vessels, particularly Coast Guards. Open channels of communication, such as hotlines, can make a difference, especially in a moment of crisis. Singapore and China signed an MOU in June this year to work towards the establishment of a secure defense telephone link. The US and China have similar bilateral defense lines established, and the hope is that both countries will find an arrangement to use them effectively. ASEAN has also operationalized the ASEAN Direct Communications Infrastructure, and this was in 2017. It's a hotline that's set up to allow for defense ministers to communicate during crises or emergencies. ASEAN has welcomed ADMM Plus countries to join this initiative, and Japan is the first Plus country to operationalize the hotline in March this year. Beyond crisis management, one of the central conundrums for this generation is the US-China strategic rivalry. Both United States and China will continue to be economic and military powers. The differences in ideology, political, and value systems will always exist between the two. In terms of geopolitical influence, the G2 scenario, where China dominates west of Guam in Asia and the US east of Guam, is fantasy. It will never become the reality. Neither will the world be better off if either the US or China declines. We need both a strong United States and a strong China if we are to effectively address global challenges. What is needed is that political commitment and hard work from both countries to improve relations. And here we note the progress in establishing meetings and hopefully a summit between President Xi and President Biden in the coming months ahead. Singapore is confident that China has the wisdom and determination to not only keep the peace in Asia, but also lift up this and other regions as it progresses. In the past decade, China has helped many countries build infrastructure through its Belt and Road Initiative, such as the Jakarta-Bandung high-speed train in Indonesia and the Lao-China Railway. China has already committed to sustain these initiatives. President Xi Jinping recently announced that these key BRI lenders, the Export-Import Bank and China Development Bank, will offer an additional US $100 billion in loans. Singapore supports these efforts to develop countries in Asia to meet the hopes and aspirations of this Asian century. What more can China do to promote stability in this region and globally? I would humbly suggest three broad tracks. First, China must continue to grow economically and further integrate its markets with the rest of the world. Economic and financial growth are strengths in themselves. Yes, it will get harder because of the prevailing climate of distrust and strategic competition, but I believe that China has indigenous strengths that it can draw from, particularly its strengths in STEM capabilities. Second, China must continue to promote multilateralism and uphold the rule of law. That is China's greatest assurance to other nations, big or small, that China's growth is inclusive and will lift all boats, that as China grows economically and militarily, it does not seek to supplant or replace others based on its own national interests. Third, China, including the People's Liberation Army, must lead to reduce tensions in our region. Whether China accepts it or not, wants it or not, it is already seen as a dominant power and must therefore act as a benevolent one. This morning we've heard a careful elaboration of the Global Security Initiative. I make these three broad generalizations in the hope that China's progress will be seen and acted upon as a virtue rather than a threat to promote stability in our region. Since we last convened at the Xiangshan Forum in 2019, our world has become a more dangerous and divided one. Whether Asia can rise and prosper, as it has done in the past 2 decades, depends on our ability to secure the peace in this region despite growing geopolitical instability. Thank you very much.
谢谢部长先生。
Thank you. Thank you, Minister, for your speech. Next, we are going to invite Minister of Defense of Timor-Leste, Costa Gomes. The floor is yours.
Excellencies, distinguished delegate, participants of the 10th Beijing Xiangshan Forum, ladies and gentlemen, good morning all. It is with great pleasure that I participate in this forum. Many thanks to the People's Liberation Army for the honorable invitation to share some reflection on the Asia-Pacific security architecture, present and the future. I also want to convey my gratitude to the organizer, the China Association for Military Science and the China Institute for the International Strategic Studies for the warm welcome and the hospitality. After listening to several remarkable speeches yesterday and today, in this magnificent forum, a forum that I consider for the lasting peace, allow me to articulate some thought in regard the new geopolitical framework in Asia-Pacific and the centrality of ASEAN for regional security. Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, as we all observe, regardless of what happens around the world, global security becomes volatile and every state is concerned about how its international system cooperate with the supremacy of the force and the political options that may be taken. In this fragmentation of international relations, potentially cause a cause of several areas in addition to global security, namely business, financial, political development, technology, humanity issues, food, energy, and the natural disasters that are affected by irreversible climate change. In this regard, it is interesting to recall one of the most important theses of Ulrich Beck said, being at risk is the most important characteristic of the humanity at the beginning of the 21st century. This being a risk means living in a context marked by distrust due to the outbreak of disasters, whose impact cannot be fully predicted. Risk associated with the unpredictability and volatility of our world, which is present in all spheres of our human existence. In this view, this fact for the fragile and state under construction such Timor-Leste, more than ever, it is essential to create and implement regional and global cooperation policy and programs with an agile, flexible architecture, focus on prevention, training, and inclusivity. Thus, to do this, I will begin by making some consideration about the new geopolitical framework in Asia-Pacific, briefly characterizing the rivalry between the two major countries, the USA and China. Afterward, I will analyze ASEAN contribution to regional security. Finally, I will look at how ASEAN can contribute to the future security framework in Asia-Pacific and the position of Timor-Leste. In the extensive Asia-Pacific region, an important geopolitical transformation is taking place, resulting from a growing rivalry between the major countries, USA and China, which is disrupting the international order and manifesting itself in different ways of regional and global scale that can affect regional security cooperation arrangement. However, in this regard, it is important to highlight that USA concern about the China economic growth and the transformation of Asia-Pacific into the most dynamic region in the world, has several initiatives underway aimed to contain its ASEAN rival. It is important also to highlight that in the field of security, quadrilateral security stand out, reinforced in the diplomatic commercial area by the Asia-Pacific Economic Cooperation. It is important also to highlight that China adopts a behavior in which it seeks to avoid or postpone the hegemonic dispute with the USA, but reaffirm several initiatives aimed to expanding its freedom and action through Shanghai Cooperation Organization, the Regional Comprehensive Economic Partnership, the ASEAN Infrastructure Investment Bank, and above all, the Belt and Road Initiative. And now, today, currently we just listened to the idea of GSI. The rivalry between the two major countries is also expressed in the narrative they adopt when referring to the large region that surround the Indian and Pacific Ocean. The Indo-Pacific concept reflects the approach of USA, Japan, India, Australia, as well as their European allies. China rejects this idea and uses the term of Asia-Pacific to refer to the geopolitical environment where the following are particularly relevant. It is its growing affirmation in the region, India's economic rise, the consolidation of ASEAN as regional multilateral mechanism for the promoting development and security. From our perspective, to increase security and prosperity, containing rivalry between USA and China in the Asia-Pacific region, it is necessary to create opportunity for collaboration, inclusive collaboration that based on ASEAN foster trust, friendship, and cooperation around issue of economic growth, social progress, and cultural development, as well as promoting peace and stability through respect and justice among its members. ASEAN, after 2015, when became an intergovernmental organization with rules and governing charter, has managed to guarantee regional security and prosperity, maintaining the following main points on its agenda: political security, promoting the economy, and social cultural progress. ASEAN also serves as a forum for consultation and constructive dialogue with aim of promoting trust and preventing diplomacy in the region. In the social cultural field, over more than 5 decades, ASEAN has attached great importance to improve the people-centered community, contributing to social progress, reducing poverty, enhancing organization identity, and safeguarding human rights. To this end, ASEAN has fostered functional cooperation in many areas among its members and with partners from different continents. At the same time, it has improved connectivity between people, promoted a cultural agenda, and fostered cooperation to protect and prepare its citizens against natural disasters, pandemic, and the effect of climate change. The growing rivalry between the major countries in Asia-Pacific region has substantially changed the geopolitical framework in which ASEAN has operated in the last decade. Therefore, the current context to continue ensuring security and prosperity in Asia-Pacific region, it needs to evolve, becoming a broader and more resilient community. Now, this too implies that, in addition to admitting new members and remaining focused on political security, promoting the economy and social cultural progress, ASEAN must give renewed attention to the security field. To achieve this, it needs to develop a new internal multilateral governance arrangement that systematically and in the long term promote common security based on the process of consultation, joint contribution and shared benefit, cooperation, focus on common security interests, which reinforce mutual trust and encourage preventive diplomacy. Decision institutionalized and well-defined, as well as clear established general objective. These three processes, which imply relevant changes in ASEAN sources, organizations, and activities, are crucial to preventing its centrality and unity, as well as maintain leadership in strengthening regionalism and multilateralism through the development of new dynamic of security in Asia-Pacific region, which replace rivalry with inclusive collaboration. To be noted that broader sense of global security challenge is still volatile and in constant change, according to the geostrategic interests that prevail. Domestic fragility are apparently notable. People demand for more, better life and secure future. And this demand is also observed by regional and global community, as the Excellency General Zhang Yu Xia mentioned yesterday in his opening remark, we all share the same shore of the ocean, and each of us must take our own boat to the safer port, no matter the weather condition is. Timor-Leste continued to strategically position itself as an agent of peace. We consider it important that it remain committed to the various cooperation strategies and action. On one hand, multilateralism with the United Nations, with the G7+, an intergovernmental organization that gathering 20 fragile states, with the ASEAN, with the CPLP, the Portuguese-speaking countries, and in the other hand, with bilateralism, with China, with the USA, with Japan, with Australia, with Indonesia, New Zealand, Cuba, among others. To conclude, as a small and recent nation positioned in a place of strategic relevance for military and commercial interests, we soon realized that Timor-Leste security depends upon the establishment of a strong relationship with our neighbors and friends that share values of respect and solidarity to strengthening the common ground of interest for peace, factors that has contributed positively to the stability and peace of the region. Distinguished participants, I conclude. Thank you very much for your kind attention, and I wish you all best and many success. 谢谢。
谢谢部长先生的发言。
Thank you very much, Minister, for your speech.
下面有请
Now I give the floor to
亚新会议
His
秘书长
Excellency
凯
Karat
拉特
Saribay,
萨雷拜先生
Secretary General of
发
CIPA,
言。
Conference on Interaction and Confidence Building Measures in Asia.
Distinguished Chair, Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, first of all, I would like to thank the hosts of the forum for the excellent organization of the event, for invitation to take part for the first time for me, and the opportunity to speak in front of such representative audience. The growing rivalry of global forces leads to an increase in the number and intensity of conflicts on the planet. The turbulent processes that shake the entire world today have not left Asia aside. We have all witnessed the recent escalation of violence in West Asia. It is a matter of great regret and sympathy that there are a significant number of casualties and suffering among the civilian population. Disregard for the lives of civilians, the lack of priority for humanitarian issues, the indiscriminate use of weapons, hostage-taking tactics, as well as attempts to resolve long-standing political problems by force in general are unacceptable. Violence creates a new cycle of violence. In the current circumstances of geopolitical fracture and new dividing lines, multilateralism and inclusiveness have become the only possible approach to ensuring peace and stability. There are many encouraging examples of confidence-building measures and genuine cooperation leading to the strengthening of the security as well and well-being of peoples that are taking place today. Dismantling the bipolar world has dramatically increased the potential of medium and small countries, which have realized that they are capable of playing a prominent role in global and regional affairs if they join hands. Today, this process is observed all over the planet but it is Asia where it is most visible. Against the backdrop of traditional security instruments rooted in the Cold War, including global ones, new associations are being built in the Asian space, which we can consider as structural elements of the future regional security architecture. Last decades, some multinational organizations and fora were created in the region, including the ASEAN, Arab League, Shanghai Cooperation Organization, Collective Security Treaty Organization, Organization of Turkic States, and others. However, I dare to say that the Conference on Interaction and Confidence-Building Measures in Asia holds a special place among them. The establishment of SICA as a single platform for Pan-Asian dialogue on the threshold of this millennium was an objective necessity in the context of the progressive globalization and economic development, but along with these worsening challenges and threats to security amidst ongoing sub-regional and local conflicts. The main objective of the SICA member states is to build an architecture of security and cooperation in Asia based on the principles of the UN Charter and international law, transparency and mutual trust, with decisions and actions based solely on consensus. Today, SICA unites 28 states covering more than 90% of the territory of Asia, stretching from the Pacific to the Mediterranean and from the Arctic Ocean to the Indian one. It is a unique multilateral dialogue platform, providing its diverse membership equal opportunities for voluntary cooperation and participation in collective decision-making for the benefit of the entire Asia. SICA is a unique consensus-based multilateral platform to enhance cooperation for promoting peace, security, and stability in Asia. As a multilateral platform, SICA provides equal opportunities for its members with different political, economic, and socio-cultural backgrounds to jointly discuss ideas, share knowledge and best practices, collaborate on useful initiatives, and make decisions based, again, on the mutual consent. I would like to highlight the unique nature of SICA, where large, small, and medium, as well as very large states participate on truly equal footing. We have no blocks. There is and can be no pressure of stronger ones to those who are weaker. SICA brings around the same tables that sometimes have SICA brings around the same table states that sometimes have no diplomatic relations with each other or even mutual diplomatic recognition. This is the great value and unique feature of SICA, setting it apart from other organizations that operate in Asia. Our forum is a flexible structure guided by such fundamental principles as strict consensus and voluntariness. SICA countries have, at times, vastly differing perspectives on certain issues on the international agenda. However, strict adherence to the mentioned principles allows them to interact effectively and develop solutions by focusing not on what divides them, but on what unites them. I would especially like to note that while a number of regional structures around the globe are facing problems with a new goal setting in a changing world, stagnation, and even crisis of further development, our organization continues to grow, actively evolve, and try to meet the challenges of the time. This was evidenced by unanimous decision of our member states on SICA transformation. The 6th SICA summit held last October in Astana, Kazakhstan, in the 30th anniversary year of SICA, launched a structured, inclusive, and transparent negotiation process of gradual, incremental, and consensus-based transformation of SICA into a full-fledged international regional organization. Meanwhile, over its 3 decades of evolution, SICA has acquired the status, role, structure, functions, modus operandi, and other features of the international organization yet. Since its establishment, SICA's main area of activity has been confidence-building measures in 5 main dimensions: military, political, economic, environmental, human and new challenges and threats. All SICA CBMs are reflected in the SICA catalog of CBMs and grouped into 18 priority areas coordinated by individual states. To date, there are 17 coordinators and 23 co-coordinators. Confidence-building measures in the military political area were at the core of the establishment of our conference and remains one of the key areas of our interaction. In the military political dimension, SICA provides its member states with mechanisms for exchanging information on arms control issues, holding consultations on unexpected and dangerous military incidents, monitoring military exercises, and other forms of cooperation between the armed forces. SICA member states attach high priority to cooperation in the new threats and challenges dimension, including the fight against terrorism, illegal migration, drug trafficking, and in the other areas. Other dimensions of confidence-building measures, although at first glance they are not directly related to security issues, work to strengthen mutual and regional security through the development of cooperation, creating mutual understanding and trust. The SICA catalog of CBMs is a unique document in the Asian region and in the world history of diplomacy at all. First approved in 2004, it was substantially updated and expanded in 2021 at the last SICA meeting of Ministers of Foreign Affairs. It is a document in which the member states agreed on joint approaches to interaction in order to build a confidence by upholding the simple to complex principle. First, establishing confidence, then on this basis building full cooperation that leads to greater mutual security, and which in turn is the prerequisite for sustainable development. Ladies and gentlemen, we live in an era of constantly changing great risks and threats to global security. Asia, a home to 60% of the world's population, is the most challenging continent in this context. These risks have various root causes and manifestations, and we have no choice but to collectively solve all security problems through multilateral mechanisms. I am sure that the future of international security lies in multilateral diplomacy. Only the strengthening of genuine multilateralism based on confidence-building measures can provide an adequate response to the challenges of our time and show the transition from competition to cooperation. I strongly believe that SICA will further contribute to the consolidation of the common vision of Asian states and their connectivity. In the future, SICA will definitely take a prominent place in the comprehensive security of the Asian continent and the world. I thank you for your attention.
Thank you, Secretary General, for your remarks. Next speaker comes from Pakistan, Mr. Imran Saif, Air Vice Marshal, Chief Instructor, Armed Officers Division at National Defense University of Pakistan. Let's welcome.
Honorable Excellencies and dignitaries from different countries, ladies and gentlemen, Assalamu alaikum and a very good morning. I am deeply honored to participate in the 10th Beijing Xinjiang Forum, and I would like to extend my heartfelt felicitations to the organizers for their warm hospitality. Since its inception, this forum has evolved into a crucial platform for discussing critical defense and security matters. It offers an opportunity for various parties to exchange ideas, address regional issues, and engage in dialogue, fostering deeper understanding and cooperation. The 10th Beijing Xinjiang Forum embodies this spirit of cooperation and it is within the realm of this international collaboration that we must find our footing. Respected ladies and gentlemen, lasting peace is not merely the absence of war. It entails harmonious coexistence based on mutual trust, understanding, and sustainable growth. Asia-Pacific, a region which reflects great potential for partnership in growth and development, faces distinctive uncertainties regarding lasting peace. Asia-Pacific covers a wide geographical area with diverse landscape, climates, societies, cultures, religions, and economies. This region hosts the world's most dynamic economies, reflecting truly impressive development and prosperity models. On the other hand, some states are on a path to economic recovery and prosperity, while still quite a few of the nations are sailing through troubled waters of economic hardships. This region also faces a range of traditional and non-traditional security challenges, which project great uncertainties in the future. The region is home to a diverse set of countries, each with its own unique security concerns. These countries have distinct security systems, including military alliances, defense agreements, and domestic security measures, all tailored to their national interests and threat perceptions. In this backdrop, it is a privilege for me to comment on the security architecture of Asia-Pacific, present and future. Respected ladies and gentlemen, the dawn of Asian century is upon us. The Asia-Pacific region remains key driver of global growth in 2023. Therefore, Asia-Pacific can be considered the vehicle for Asian dawn. However, the US-China competition has complex and multifaceted effects on the Asian century. It has triggered increased competition and tensions in the region, potentially impacting the security architecture. However, the impact of this competition varies from country to country, depending on their strategic interests and relationships with the United States and the People's Republic of China. The existing regional institutions such as ASEAN and SCO play a crucial role in fostering regional cooperation. In particular, SCO aims at strengthening mutual confidence and good neighborly relations among the member countries, promoting effective cooperation in politics, trade, and economy. Strengthening such institutions with enhanced mechanism of dialogue, conflict resolution, and joint cooperation on security challenges will promote trust, transparency, and predictability. However, Asia-Pacific security architecture is undergoing a significant shift due to US Indo-Pacific strategy, which lays out the American vision of an emerging international order. The manifestation of Indo-Pacific strategy is being seen in the form of important alliances such as Quad and AUKUS. If China-US relations can be well managed and contained, then it is hopeful that competitive yet constructive regional security architecture will make shape in the coming decades. In such case, through meaningful dialogue, confidence-building measures, and peaceful negotiations, the region may witness resolution of territorial disputes. Similarly, non-traditional security threats like terrorism, cybercrime, natural disasters, pandemics, and transnational organized crimes pose significant challenge and require comprehensive regional cooperation. Through information sharing, capacity building, and joint responses, the region can address and mitigate the impact of these threats as well. Ladies and gentlemen, Pakistan, due to its unique geostrategic location, has often found itself at the crossroads of global political shifts. Its role in maintaining peace and security has been multifaceted and pivotal. Pakistan has consistently pursued dialogue, negotiation, and mediation, contributing to global peace. The national security policy of Pakistan underlines the domestic stability and regional peace based on mutual coexistence, regional connectivity, and shared prosperity as essential prerequisites to optimizing national security. As per our national security policy, Pakistan remains committed to normalization of its relations with its neighbors based on mutual respect, sovereign equality, and a collective effort to find pathways for conflict resolution with the belief that shared economic opportunities are cornerstones for achieving prosperity in Pakistan and the region. A just and peaceful resolution of Jammu and Kashmir dispute remains a vital national security interest for Pakistan. Similarly, me and my countrymen also stand for the Palestinians and would continue to urge the international community to constructively play their role for the restoration of the rights of Palestinians. Pakistan maintains mutually beneficial relations with all major powers and will further base them on commonality of interests. Pakistan's deep-rooted historic ties with China are driven by shared interest and mutual understanding. Bilateral relations between two nations continue to expand based on trust and strategic convergences. The Belt and Road Initiative is the most ambitious global undertaking of the 21st century, and it promises to create a world of shared prosperity through enhanced economic linkages. China-Pakistan Economic Corridor, a project of national importance for Pakistan, is redefining regional connectivity and providing impetus to Pakistan's economy with the potential to jumpstart domestic growth, alleviate poverty, and improve regional connectivity. Pakistan welcomes foreign direct investment in CPEC-related special economic zones from all interested countries. Over the years, Pakistan has demonstrated an unwavering commitment to global peace and security, notably through its significant contributions to United Nations peacekeeping missions. Pakistan has been instrumental in regional peace efforts, notably in Afghan peace process by facilitating dialogue and pushing for a political solution. Furthermore, Pakistan has taken substantial measures to counter terrorism, whereby launching operations such as Zarbul Azab and Ratul Fasad to eliminate terrorism and promote peace and security. The sacrifices made by its armed forces and civilians reflect Pakistan's commitment to eradicating this menace. Ladies and gentlemen, in today's interconnected world, no nation is isolated, and conflicts have far-reaching consequences. The recent Russia-Ukraine conflict illustrates this, affecting global inflation, food security, poverty, fuel prices, and global economy. It is time for the world to unite and protect our shared home. The future of Asia Pacific should focus on emerging security challenges like cybersecurity, maritime security, climate change, pandemics, natural disasters, and food security. Building trust and confidence among regional actors through dialogue and inclusive diplomacy can create an environment conducive for peace, stability, and prosperity. Similar future Asia-Pacific security architecture shall be able to de-escalate tensions on Korean Peninsula and South China Sea, and between India and Pakistan, as well as China and USA. To conclude, ladies and gentlemen, the challenges in the region are significant, but not overwhelming. Through collaboration, trust, and mutual understanding, we can orchestrate a path towards enduring peace and collective security. I extend my sincere gratitude to the organizers and my fellow participants for their warm welcome and contribution. Let us use this forum to its full potential, engaging in meaningful discussions and forging lasting partnerships. Together, we can make a difference and contribute to a more peaceful and secure world in general and Asia-Pacific in particular. I thank you all.
谢谢赛义夫将军的发
Thank you
言。
very much, Air Vice Marshal Saif.
Now, for this plenary session, 5 guest speakers have delivered their presentations. Now it's time for Q&A. We'll take questions from the floor. 下面是互动时间，欢迎各位向我们的专家提问。现在开始，女士
Please
优
raise
先
questions to our，
这一位。
panelists. Ladies first.
谢谢杜将军。
Thank you, moderator.
我是军事科学院的研究员江新浩。
I'm a research
我想
fellow from the
向新加坡国防部长。
PLA Academy of Military Sciences. My question is to the Defense Minister of Singapore. Just now you talked about
亚太地区这个安全所做的贡献。
the contribution made by China and ASEAN to the regional security. And we also noticed that Asia Pacific is facing new challenges. For example, the US is establishing multilateral mechanisms based on bilateral alliances, for example, Five Eyes, AUKUS, and the Quad. And these small multilateral associations and alliances actually are exclusive. China has also proposed its own GSI. As our Assistant Minister elaborated earlier, and I also noticed that he raised 3 hopes to China. My question is on how to build an Asia-Pacific security mechanism. Do you have any more comprehensive proposals? Thank you.
Sir, you got the question? Please.
Let me thank the audience for that question. And a question, of course, deals with the central conundrum that we talked about, the US-China strategic rivalry. So there are no easy answers. And she asked whether we had any more initiatives. I don't think it's a problem of absence or insufficient initiatives. I think there are plenty, whether it's the Global Security Initiative, whether it's the Indo-Pacific Architecture, whether it's ADMM+. And if you listen to my learned panelists, well, in essence, all saying the broad themes are like trust and strategic partnership. Vice Chairman Zhang Yuxia said that as much, that without trust there can be no advancement. So it isn't an absence of initiatives. I don't think we need more. What my point I was trying to make was that I think if I can sum it up is that we will have to deal with the world as it is, not as we wish it to be. And that would be, I think, perhaps a more sensible starting point. That from the perspective of US-China, neither will go away. The G2 scenario was where China dominates in one sphere of the world and the US dominates in the other. Neither will it occur. Now, if you accept that neither US or China in the foreseeable future, and by that I mean in the next 1 or 2 decades, that each will have its own economic and military strengths, and neither will go away and both will exist, then how do you accommodate? And that's the central issue. Some will say, well, there needs to be a change in the world order. Well, that's well and very good, but in the change of world order, there will be a new pecking hierarchy, and somebody will want to be on top. There isn't a situation in global affairs where nobody wanted that space on top. Everybody wants to be a hegemon if they can be, and I think that's the reality. So I think that the U.S.-China relationship is vital for all countries. I think a very good start is the recent, or good progress is the recent advancements. I'm very glad your foreign minister went to the U.S. and that he had a call with President Biden. I hope that the summit between President Xi and President Biden will come to pass. I think there are some low-hanging fruits that are possible. If there's one initiative that I can think of the top of my mind that would help, U.S. and China are large, complex countries with many organizations. And if you look across the U.S. administrations in the past 10 to 15 years, the Chinese leadership doesn't change as much as the U.S. leadership. That's not a criticism, just as a description of the systems. I think there's probably a place for stability for a special envoy on each side. Because you have initiatives, and then you have the balloon incident, and then you have this incident, the Alaskan incident, and it disrupts the whole process. And each time it occurs, the U.S. Secretary of Defense has said to me a number, from the military to military talks are stalled, and you can't make progress. And similarly for the economic or the other aspects. So perhaps a special envoy of sorts would help that, but that's just one small suggestion in a very large sea of existing initiatives.
谢谢部长先生的回答。
Thank you very much, Minister, for
我
your
们
answer.
请左区的，
Now,
我想请一位外国
in
的
the
学者
left
提个问题。
side of
我看到了这
the
个
hall, I wanted to
韩国
invite
外
an
国语大学的
international
黄载浩教授。
guest,
昨
Professor
天
Huang
你的手
from
举得很
Korea.
高，但是时
Yesterday
间有
you
限，
raised your hand
没有让
high,
你问问题。
but we did not
你有
give
问题
you the
吗
floor. Now, do you have a question?
Professor Huang， 今天没有问题了是吧？
So you do not have a question today. Okay.
我们继续哈。
Okay, let's
这
continue.
个左边的哪位想提问题？
Anyone from the left-hand side of the hall?
还是到右边来哈？好的。
Maybe on the right-hand side?
我们国防大学的先请这位朋友吧，他已经那个。
Okay, this friend, please.
谢谢杜将军，我是
Thank you very
北
much,
京大
General
学
Du.
教授
I'm Wang Dong from Peking University.
那么我的问题呢是想提给在座
My
所
question
有
is
的
to
嘉宾。
all of our
看
panelists.
到近年来
We are seeing that in recent years, in Asia Pacific, the security mechanism is more
个别的
fragmented,
执意推
and
动所谓的战略
some
竞争，使得亚太地
countries
区
are
安
actually
全格局中
pushing
的合
forward
性
the so-called
不断地上
strategic
升。
rivalry, so we are seeing the risk of narrow sum in the security mechanism. So how can we reduce the zero-sum situation in Asia-Pacific security process? How can we shift it from zero-sum to positive-sum? How can we really build a sound Asia-Pacific security architecture? Secondly,
全球安全倡议
on
在
China's
推动
GSI
更健全
proposal,
包容性和韧性的亚太安全架构方面，能带给我们何种启示？
what
谢谢。
inspiration can it bring
这是一个比
to
较大
our
的问题
building
啊。
of the Asia-Pacific security architecture?
He asked the whole panel, who would like to answer this question? Secretary General, please.
Thank you so much. Yes, I'm a staunch supporter of not a zero-sum approaches. What I also mentioned in my remarks, that we need a multilateral approach. We need to uphold the UN principles. It is difficult, but humanity, however, was able to create these principles, and they led us for 70 plus years. Yes, what we do observe is the new divisions, the degrading of the UN principles, because member states, and first and foremost, Security Council cannot produce the concerted approaches to very difficult issues, not only on the hotspots, because the geopolitical rivalry, unfortunately, has its own manifestation at these hotspots, but also on the very global issues, because we mentioned about climate change, we mentioning about the biodiversification, we talking about the very much existential questions. So that is the moment that unfortunately we cannot approach to these issues in a concerted manner in producing the multilateral approaches. That creates a mistrust. What we have to do is probably to come back. But should we wait another global catastrophic hostilities like it was during the First or Second World War? On the end of the second we came to the UN system. I don't think that. I think that's the wise approach, the multilateral approach, the inclusive approach, not creating blocks, not creating inclusive clubs, not trying to put a weaker states under your control or under your command, but to invite to produce the multilateral approaches, agreeing all others. That could be the solution. Idealistically, I think that the principles that, for instance, SICA shares, there are inclusive approach, there are consensus-based decisions, and there are also the flexibility given by the status that countries, member states can participate in this or that confidence-building measures on the voluntary basis, but not harming the system, not harming the principles. So I think it's very hard, it's very difficult to voluntarily get rid from the strength, from the power, but we need a more democratic international order. Thank you.
谢谢亚信会议秘书长的
Thank you very
认真
much,
回答。
Secretary General, for your answer.
下面我们继续提问。
Now let's continue with the questions.
请这一位我们中国国防大学国际防务学院的徐汇将军提
Wanted
问。
to give floor to
非常
General
感谢
Xu.
主席给我这么宝贵的机会啊！
Thank
我
you very
想
much
提一个比较宏观的问
for
题。
this question. This question is
本次论坛的主题
higher
是
level.
共同安
Our
全、持久和
theme
平。
is common security
我
and
们从
lasting
昨天到
peace.
今天，
And
几
from
乎每
yesterday
一
to
个发言
today,
者
every
都对
speaker
当今世界的
has
和
talked
平
about
和安全形势做了分析。
the
实际我们
world's
回顾起
security
来，
and
自从
peace.
上世纪80年代以来，
Ever since
唯有
1980s,
东亚，
only East Asia
从一定意义上讲，可以说唯有东亚相对实现了
has
共
achieved
同安全
relative
和持久和平。
common security and lasting peace.
40年来，
40
我
years
们这里
on,
没有发生大自然，
we haven't seen
这是近代
large
以来
conflicts in our
前所
area.
未有
And this is
巨
unprecedented
大的
in
成就。
modern history and a huge success.
我们实现了前所
We
未有
have
的和
achieved
平与
unprecedented
繁荣
peace
保
and
持了40年。
prosperity for 40 years.
中国作为最大的国
China,
家，
as
梅开一枪。
a biggest country in this region, has
与
never
周边国
achieved
家，我们的
a
stakeholders
gunfight,
共同努力实现了持久
a
的和平。
gunshot, and we have
我觉得我们有
achieved
很多经验可
common
以
security
总
and
结。
lasting peace
今
with our
天呢，
neighbor
时间关系，
countries.
我不去总结它。我想
And there
问
are
一下
lessons
在
to
座
be
的
learned
各
and
位，
experiences to be drawn. Of
你们
course,
刚
in
才
the
的
interest
发
of
言
time,
几
I'm
乎
not
都
going to
谈到
elaborate. So my
我
question
们
to our
面
panelists
临
is that just
新的
now
冲
you
突的危
all
险，
talked about the
比
new
如说代理
challenges
人冲
and
突，
new
比
potential
如说可能
conflicts
的冷
such as
战。
potential
那么
sea
各位也都谈到，
conflicts
特别
and
是
a
黄永红
new
医生
cold mentality.
黄部
And
长
also Dr.
作
Huang,
为本地区最资深的 国防部长
one of the most
明确提
senior
出，
national
我们绝不允
defense
许
ministers
以色列
has clearly
乌克兰
said
等这样的
that we should
冲
not
突和代理人战争
allow
在东亚重演，
conflicts
毁
such
掉
as
东亚的和
the
平与繁荣。
Israeli
那么我想问一
Palestinian
下在座的各
conflict
位，
ruin
我们应该建立一个什么样的未来安全架
what
构、
kind
亚太
of
安全架
future
构，
Asia
来
Pacific
彻底
security
防止
architecture should be
这种代理人
established
冲突
to
可能在东亚
completely
重演，以便我们能够
rule
保
out
持
the possibility
过去
of
40
such
年
kind of
前所未有的和平与繁
conflicts in
荣，
our region to
为东亚
continue to
乃至
maintain
为世界的
our
和平与
peace
繁
and
荣，
prosperity
共
that
同
we
的安
have
全
maintained for
持久
over
合作
40 years
做出
for the
东
common
亚人的贡献。
security and lasting peace of our region. Thank you.
So, sir, you are senior most. Would you please make some comment?
Well, I'll take it as a compliment. But that assertion that East Asia found peace, I would like to think it's true, but historically I think some may not completely agree. One, that it found peace on its own. History will tell you that's not quite exactly the case. Two, I suppose if you look at America's North America, that they have not been at war, and they would say that they found lasting peace. But I don't think that's your key point. I think the gentleman from the PLA made a very good point. What is for our region? How do we maintain peace? And I think we all accept that it will be a horrendous occurrence if we had a conflict in Asia, on top of Europe, on top of the Middle East. And that's, I think, exactly my point. There isn't an absence of common principles, shared principles that we talked about. If you look at your Global Shared Initiative, I think many of the Western European countries, US would agree with them in terms of principles. So what is the essence for the peaceful architecture in Asia? And I think it's just that, the US-China relationship. And I say that, and coming back to your point about peace in East Asia, the central question to us, we took a position some time ago, 60 years ago, whether the US is a stabilizing force or not. In the 1980s, when the US had to come out of Clark and Subic, we took a position that the US was a stabilizing force, and that we would offer their ships and planes access to our ports and bases. We still take the view that US is a stabilizing force. I understand that there might be a difference of opinions, but consider this. If the US, for any reason, whether it's unwilling or unable to maintain a military or a dominant influence in Asia, what are the scenarios that may ensue? At very least, the Northeast Asia Peninsula will see an increase in security threats. That's the very least. So I think the US continues to play a positive role. We have encouraged it to increase its economic presence. But there are issues that need to be resolved. We've put on record that for Taiwan is a deep red line for China, and that countries should facilitate status quo, should not push for independence. For South China Sea, I think there's a lot of scope for fisheries agreement between disputant states, hydrocarbon exploration. So there is a need to de-escalate the tensions in Asia. But we continue to believe that both US and China are central for the stability of China, for Asia, their relationship with countries within Asia, and the relationship with each other.
谢谢部长先生的回答。
Thank you, Minister, for your
今
response.
天有我们5位
Today,
嘉宾发言者啊，
We
3位是来
have
自
5
东盟
distinguished
3 from
speakers,
the ASEAN,
including 3
1
ASEAN
from
speakers,
南亚 South
one
Asia,
from South
1 from
Asia,
International
and
Organization,
one from
CICA.
International Organization, CICA.
Any more questions? 还有问题吗？
Thank you so much, Mr. Chair. Retired General from National Research Council of Thailand. We have heard a lot of the security architecture. Many said it's too much, or some said inadequate. By the way, first time I have heard from SICA that there will be a new platform from Mediterranean to Asia Pacific. My question directly to you, sir, Secretary General. Can or how can the communication between young people can bring peace or can promote the security architecture from now, because future is their own? Thank you so much, sir. And please.
I appreciate your question very much because, yes, indeed, we consider security in a holistic approach. That is why we do have 5 main pillars or 5 main domain of our interaction. And one of them is a humanitarian dimension. Yes, in the 90s, when the global peace were a bit better shape, at least the global rivalry, the bipolar system was collapsed. It was a hope for the future, and the OSCE one of the model for SICA because of the comprehensive approach to the security. So we have 5 pillars, and we have the human dimension, but within SICA we do not have the more advanced democracies and less advanced democracies. We do not talk about that. We talk about the human issues, because human security is a part of comprehensive approach. So within this human dimension, we established one of the first, our permanent institutions, as a youth council. And it has its own regularity, its own dynamic, its own leadership, I would say, because yes, chairing country of the SICA, they put the guiding lines or priorities for the further development. But within this youth council, we have their own presidium, which decides the topic to discuss. I will bring just a few examples. So last year, at the youth council meeting, the youth representatives, the representatives of youth organization of SICA member states, as well as the government authorities responsible for youth policies, so there are twin representation of each member states, they discussed how to prevent the radicalization of youth. That was one of the topics. The second topic was, what are the state-run exchange programs that could also be conducive to people-to-people connectivity? The third, how youth can speak out their social activities within the political parliamentarism. So we invited many speakers, many experts, and the youth representatives. They discussed these topics. They are very much topical issues. So this year, recently, in Tashkent, in Samarkand, in Uzbekistan, we gathered again to talk about the youth and the elder generation, so the dialogue between the generations. We talk about again on the role of media to de-radicalize the youth, how media could be conducive to make environment of less violence, of less hatred speeches, and many other things. So next year, within the SICA framework, President of Kazakhstan, the chairing country of SICA for this and next year, he also called for the voluntarist rally within the SICA, because during the pandemic we saw that volunteerism is a very much important, even critical non-governmental movement that helps to societies, to communities, and to the governments, by the way, to address the challenges, to mobilize the civil society to tackle the issues. So this is the youth, and this is the security again. Without people-to-people contact, without promoting eco-destinations, this is the next point that I would like to come, and we in the Secretariat working very hard on that issue, to bring people together from the childhood, from the youth stage. So once we published to celebrate the 30th anniversary of SICA, the fairy tales of 20 countries that are member to SICA we brought all the fairy tales, 2 from each member states. We translated that into English and Russian, 2 working languages. And now I'm trying to promote these fairy tales to be published in each SICA member states' languages. So we're seriously discussing with Chinese authorities that the Chinese children can read the fairy tales from Palestine, from many other areas, just to put the peace seeds into the mind from the very childhood, just to create the atmosphere of tolerance and acceptance of diverse nature of Asia. So this is the holistic approach of SICA, and thank you very much for this question.
谢谢秘书长的回答。
Thank you, Secretary General, for your response. In the interest of time, we come to the end of our questions and answers. And please allow me to wrap up our plenary session. In the plenary session 3, Asia-Pacific region has many security architectures. Most of them are bilateral, trilateral, or quadrilateral. These mechanisms are exclusive and targeted at third parties. Such arrangements will trigger suspicion, and it will not be conducive to the building of mutual trust. As Assistant Foreign Minister Nong Rong said this morning, a country when pursuing security should not ignore the security of other countries. A country's security should not be based on the insecurity of other countries. Therefore, to break the barriers, the walls of those exclusive security arrangements and build an inclusive Asia-Pacific security architecture will promote common security of all countries in this region for lasting peace. So from China's perspective, it has played an important role in the Asia-Pacific region. We believe that we are a contributor and the promoter of the security arrangements in the Asia-Pacific region. We stand ready to work together with regional organizations like ASEAN and KICA. So we seek with tireless efforts. I'd like to thank our speakers on the podium once again for your wonderful speeches. Now we're going to have a break, and then we will have the first plenary session. See you in a moment. We'll now have a break.
下次会议将于30分钟后开始，期待您的出席。
The next meeting will begin in 30 minutes. We look forward to your attendance.